Hi YouTube, it's the ESR Productions here, and today is Vlog Monday! So I've been thinking about this vlog a lot, because for those of you who don't know me personally, I'm an opinionated person. However, despite that fact, I'd like to think that I still possess the basic qualities that involve being generally down to earth, reasonable, and laid back. So I've been trying to figure out how I can keep that balance on YouTube, particularly with vlogging. I mean, it's nice to express my opinion on different topics, but I wouldn't necessarily want to talk about something that I'd take to the grave, since that's just a bit too intense for my liking, at least for right now, especially since I haven't made that many vlogs thus far. So for today, I'm going to talk about 5 things I don't understand about relationships, specifically non-platonic relationships. If you have done or currently do any of these things in relationships, I'm not trying to insult you, nor am I trying to offend you. I'm merely stating that I don't understand one aspect of you. I have talked about some of these concepts before when I did the anti-boyfriend tag, so if you want to see that, I'll put the link in the description box below. Alright, let's get started. The first thing I don't understand about relationships is dating acquaintances. In other words, dating people who you don't know incredibly well. For example, let's say I met some guy at a coffee shop, and let's say I met him because he tripped on his way out the door and spilled coffee on me. I'm putting a Hollywood spin on it because why not? Anyway, after apologizing profusely, he asks me out on a date to make up for it since he's oh so smooth. I know this seems a little far-fetched, but it's not necessarily unheard of, so just bear with me here. There's a point to this, I promise. Assuming I'd say yes, we'd probably go out to dinner and hopefully get to know each other. However, since we don't know each other very well, what are we going to talk about? It'll probably be casual conversation, right? You know, things like, what do you do for a living? What's your major? What are your hobbies? Things like that. So ideally, we'd talk about the good aspects of who we are as individuals. Why? Because it's a date and we're trying to impress each other. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, this all seems like a natural and practical way to go about a situation like this. Now, let's go forward in time by saying that we're together in a legitimate relationship. So ideally, this means that we're closer and spending more time together. At this point, we probably know each other fairly well, so it's safe to assume that we're starting to become aware of each other's flaws. Now, as human beings, we're inherently imperfect, and in order for a relationship to be stable, it's crucial for those who are in the relationship to be accepting and willing to compromise. However, it also requires for a stable foundation. And frankly, constantly trying to impress each other doesn't make for a stable foundation. Because when you get too caught up in flirting with each other, you don't exactly anticipate the difficulties that lie ahead. Whether it's differing morals, or lifestyles, or career trajectories, there's usually some flaw or disagreement that displays some form of adamancy. And what do you do if there's a major part of you that someone else whom you're supposedly close with doesn't accept? Sure, you could go on with the relationship and try to avoid the situations in which your partner has to encounter that particular aspect of you, but in the end, that's not acceptance, and that's certainly not a compromise, since that's just hiding from the other person. So you have to break up. Whether or not you put in a lot of time and effort into the relationship, breaking up usually isn't a fun time. But more often than not, that's where dating an acquaintance gets you, at least from my experience, and that's why I don't understand why people still get involved with these types of relationships. Personally, that's why I prefer to take the friendship route, because you get to know someone as a whole, including their positive and negative characteristics. After all, when you're getting to know a friend, you generally don't have the intention of dating in mind, therefore neither of you have that pressure to impress each other. Don't get me wrong, some people have underlying intentions, but overall, I think that friendships are such a stable yet underestimated foundation for a relationship. And I think that people should take that into consideration next time they decide to friend zone someone, or whatever people call it these days. But there you have it. That's my stance on dating acquaintances. The second thing I don't understand about relationships is romance. Now, when I say that I don't understand romance, I'm not necessarily talking about the concept itself, more along the lines of what it's become. In other words, I don't quite agree with the societal expectations of modern-day couples. When I think of romance, I tend to imagine the stereotypes, whether I agree with them or not. Because frankly, even though these stereotypes seem to only exist in the media, they're unfortunately prevalent in everyday life as well. Whether it's getting large bouquets of flowers, or boxes of chocolates, or taking unexpected trips together, or writing poetry together, or cooking together, or just generally treating each other like royalty, it all seems overrated and ostentatious to me. Don't get me wrong, some people love grand romantic gestures, whether it's giving them or receiving them. And that's great. I mean, it's always good to put your best foot forward when making someone else feel loved and wanted and special. But honestly, from what I've seen, it's just becoming a popularity contest. As in, my significant other is better than yours, or our chemistry is better than yours. I mean, why should it be a requirement for my boyfriend to send me good morning texts every day? And is there just automatically something wrong with the relationship if he doesn't publicly pay me compliments every 5 minutes? Did it ever occur to you that feeling loved by someone doesn't always equate to how many cutesy things they post on your Facebook wall? Maybe people should just accept the fact that there's more than one way to express gratitude and compassion and love for another person. If you want to go on a cruise in the Bahamas, that's cool. But that doesn't give you the right to criticize me for wanting to cuddle and watch the series with my significant other. While there are people who genuinely appreciate outlandish romantic gestures, they are not a one-size-fits-all, therefore they are not a requirement. For myself, I prefer romance to be more personalized, but also mutual and casual. Since I'm a generally touchy person, you could see why I'd enjoy cuddling. That, combined with watching Matt Damon expose the lies of the government with someone I care about, sounds like a good night to me. And ideally, the person I'm with would enjoy it as well. But yeah, that's my opinion on romance. The third thing that I don't understand about relationships is PDA, or public display of affection. This does tie in with romance in some ways, but I wanted to focus on it because, for the most part, this is an attention-oriented activity. Now, I could spend countless hours rambling about why I don't think that constantly seeking approval from other people is necessarily healthy, but I think that my point is both amplified and simplified when in the context of non-Platonic relationships. Again, conceptually speaking, I don't see PDA as a negative thing at all, but in terms of what it's become, I can't easily comprehend it, let alone commend it. When you're walking by a couple that's showing some form of physical affection towards one another, you might roll your eyes out of annoyance, or maybe you'll begin to recall feeling that exact same rush of symbiotic energy. But this is what I tend to think of. Look, everyone! I'm dating someone! That's right, we're in a relationship! As in, they can tolerate me long enough to actually kiss me in public. We are a couple. And if that bothers you, you're probably single and miserable, which I can no longer relate to anymore. A relationship doesn't mean anything unless it's well known to the public eye. I'm important because I'm dating someone. After all, my significant other finds me important enough to kiss me, which was proven to all of you people just now. So stay tuned for more, because things will get serious between us since we are most definitely in love. Thank you for your time. That was obviously an exaggeration, and PDA in itself is a broad concept that doesn't always translate to that particular thought process. I mean, if I was dropping my boyfriend off at the airport because he was going to catch a flight for a meeting, I'd be more than happy to kiss him as a goodbye. But I don't generally envision that type of situation when I witness my peers complaining about how their significant other hasn't publicly kissed them, as if it's a crucial milestone. That situation, to depicts that you're not in a stable relationship to begin with, not only because you'd rather complain about your special someone to other people as opposed to talking things over with them firsthand, but also in the fact that you need a captive audience in order to provide for that stability and legitimacy in your relationship. That is something I see as a problem, and that's why I have trouble understanding PDA. The fourth thing that I don't understand about relationships is being attracted to physical appearance. Why is this so common? More importantly, why do I feel like I'm the only one who doesn't comprehend it? This could just be a biased opinion on my part, but to be fair, if your friends told you to stop dating someone or to stop liking someone because they're ugly, you'd think the same way. Don't get me wrong, just because 99% of my attraction to someone comes from their personality doesn't mean that I'm immune to having someone's appearance catch my eye every now and then. But I almost never try to get to know someone from their looks. If I want to get to know someone, that's as a result of their mental characteristics intriguing me, not their physical characteristics. I also don't understand why people get legitimately indecisive whenever someone attractive treats them horribly. Then I have to hear them say all this crap about how, oh, they're a total jerk, but they're so hot. And on the other hand, I also have to put up with things like, don't get me wrong, I think they're pretty cool, but they're so ugly. I don't want to associate with someone ugly. Really? Sure, I understand hormones. I also know what it's like to be young and naive and shallow. But I haven't been in that particular place since maybe around 6th grade. Also, why is it considered normal to put in a horrendous amount of time and effort into making yourself more attractive to other people? It's concepts like these that force me to acknowledge how unstable being a teenager can truly be. But in the end, there's nothing I can really do about it, because people actively choose what they do and don't value. All I can do is make suggestions, and even then, I still come across as preachy, because unfortunately, more often than not, people need to experience something firsthand before they actually grasp the idea, whether or not someone was trying to give them that idea beforehand. But still, it's such an important issue, and frankly, it makes things like dating so much more difficult, especially when a concept such as physical attraction makes up an unhealthy majority of the culture. It's okay to find someone to be physically attractive, just try not to let it blind you when you begin to see who they are as an individual. The same goes for finding someone to be physically unattractive. It's all about balance. And I think that people should consider finding that equilibrium before delving into the world of dating. And it doesn't just influence how you view relationships, it also influences how you view yourself. Personally, I tend to wear a minimal amount of makeup and generally comfortable and colorful clothes because I want to make myself feel happy, not because I want to impress others. If I were to go to a party, there's a good chance that some people wouldn't bother giving me the time of day just because I'm not physically attractive to them. But you know what? That's fine, because I wouldn't want to associate with those people to begin with. And believe me, determining that fact has made my life significantly more stable than some of the people I've met who do put a high value on physical appearance. I could go on about this, and I do realize that I incorporated some social norms that aren't necessarily specific to non-platonic relationships. Still, I've made my point, but let's move on. The fifth thing that I don't understand about non-platonic relationships is the phrase, "I love you." Okay, so from my understanding, this involves dating someone, and then feeling like you're in love with them, and then telling them. What? Alright, first of all, how does one define love? What is love? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Honestly, whenever people ask if I've ever been in love, I just say no, because what is love? Seriously though, I've never heard one clear-cut definition of love. Everybody I've asked gave different answers, and the concept itself is just not black and white. So, why is this considered an important milestone in a relationship? there's just so much debate about whether or not you can be in love without being married, or if you have to be a certain age, or if you have to have dated or known that person for a certain period of time. I guess if we were to look at love from a scientific perspective, we could easily conclude that it's just a conglomeration of chemicals that hit people so hard to the point where it feels like they're literally obsessed with each other. And frankly, that's how I've heard a lot of people describe it. They talk about how they seem addicted to their relationship. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's actually happening. Though addiction can be seen as a negative and unhealthy concept, you're almost never going to hear people complain about their love for another person because it's a euphoric feeling. And hopefully, the person they're addicted to feels the same way, so no party involved feels like it's a problem. I still don't see why this is crucial for people to determine, though. So what if we feel like we're in love? Once our significant other says or does something disagreeable, the chemical reaction stops, and next thing we know, they're dead to us. That's love? Okay, cool. By that logic, I've been in love with a lot of people. What is love? But actually, I think there's one significant aspect missing here that I'd certainly include in my personal definition of love, should I ever choose to formulate one. I'm referring to unconditional love. The perfect example of this is family members, at least in a platonic sense. I unconditionally love my family, despite the fact that they aren't always the easiest to be around. And I've known people with complicated familial situations who still love their families unconditionally. When it comes to unconditional love, it's not necessarily uncommon to find within family members, but unconditional love that involves someone whom you don't have a hereditary connection to is pretty special in my opinion. What makes unconditional love precious isn't the constant state of euphoria, it's the knowledge that you're with someone and you both know for a fact that your feelings aren't going to change for each other, no matter what has happened or what ends up happening. So of course it makes sense as to why some people would only find this to be achievable through certain ages or marriage or some symbol of intense commitment. But why do we have to complicate things by feeling the need to disclose this to each other? I mean, if I were dating someone for 5 years and they were to tell me that they loved me, I'd just begin to feel awkward and say something like, wasn't that already implied? I mean, you've been putting up with me for 5 years. I would hope that you feel strongly about me if you were able to stick around for that long. But of course, that's not how everyone works. Some people need verbal affirmation, others don't. I guess what I'm trying to conclude is that saying, I love you, shouldn't be considered a universal milestone. Not only because everyone's idea of love is slightly different, but also because not everyone needs that type of confirmation in a relationship. And also, people value love differently. I know that I don't hold any value to the concept of love right now, because I don't expect to find truly unconditional, non-platonic love at such a young age. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, but for now, I'm happy with where I stand. And there you have it. Those are the 5 things that I don't understand about relationships. If you like my channel, be sure to like and check out my Facebook page. I also made a Twitter for this channel, so it'd be cool if you followed me there. I also have a Google+, but I don't know if people actually use that. If you do, be sure to add me to your circles. But yeah, I'll be sure to put all of my social media links in the description box below. In any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next Tuesday. Bye!